are watching India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's get you the headlines this Wednesday evening. First up, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on the sidelines of the BRICS NSA meeting in Russia. Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu is likely to visit India soon. That's what reports suggest. The two ministers in the Muizzu government have quit after anti-Modi remarks. Stage set for a thaw in relations between New Delhi and Mali. And US revises travel advisory for Pakistan. It says reconsider travel to Pakistan due to terrorism. This comes after the deadly attack in Balochistan last week. All right, on to the first big story that we are tracking right now, which is National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in Russia for the BRICS NSA meeting after Prime Minister Modi's Kiev visit. This is now Ajit Doval in Russia for the BRICS meeting, and in fact some of the comments and statements that have been made by Ajit Doval have been regarding terrorism, where he's spoken about the modern security challenges that the world is facing, particularly BRICS is facing, and also about ICT related challenges. Remember, there are cybersecurity concerns now that are very amplified in the wake of how technology can be misused by state agents or non-state agents as well. He also spoke about the need to address them through joint efforts that the BRICS framework can implement to ensure that these challenges, if not eliminated, they can be minimized. This is at the BRICS NSA meeting in Russia in St. Petersburg, where he also in fact said that the BRICS members should come together to fight against terrorism. That's the big word and the big messaging coming in from India at the BRICS sidelines, where he also met the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He also spoke about BRICS unity, and he said that the unity of the bloc is its guiding light and biggest strength. All right, let's get in. Mohammad Ghazali, my colleague, tracking this meeting closely for us. Mohammad, tell us what all were the key highlights of this visit and the key messaging that was made by Ajit Doval.
See, 3 points, Gauri. One, that how we know that before Mr. Doval was set to attend this BRICS summit of the NSAs, it was expected that Mr. Doval will be going there to Russia and meet his counterpart and also the foreign minister of Russia for proposing the peace plan which India has been talking about. And he was to carry the message of the prime minister, the first one, that how solutions cannot be found on battlefield. This is not the time of war, and a peace proposal which could bring both Russia and Ukraine on the same table. But besides that, the other significance of this particular meeting is after the BRICS meeting, he also met his Chinese counterpart, who had a range of discussions with him. And what was expected that if you see the timeline in the last 6 months, Foreign Minister Mr. Jaishankar has met his counterpart in ASEAN India summit earlier this year, also on the sidelines of previous SCO foreign ministers meet. And on both the occasions, China and India have shown a lot of promise to resolve the border dispute, the disputes along the LAC. And it is expected that even today, when Mr. Ajit Doval met his counterpart of China on the sidelines of this BRICS summit, he must have shared and have details about all that border dispute as well. But overall, this BRICS summit also sent out a message that a lot of blocs and groups are being formed in the West. Like India is also part of Quad, and most of those members of Quad are supportive of Ukraine in Russia-Ukraine conflict. And despite all that criticism, India is somewhere in the voice of global South, which has managed to develop its relations and maintain its foreign policy, a standalone policy, which is regardless of what West expects of it. So one message was certainly about the conflict, which Mr. Doval is proposing to Russia from the Indian side, that how solutions can be found, how a resolution to this ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine can be found. And besides that, important meeting with the Chinese counterpart as well, where we see recently we had seen this article from Global Times which was accusing or sort of criticizing Mr. Jaishankar's foreign policy or his statement against China, or criticizing China, where he has said that perhaps China is not just India's problem, but it
All
is a
right.
global challenge as well, which the Chinese has also expected. But it appears that
Okay.
there are warming of ties related to the border dispute as well.
All right, we leave it there, Mohammad Ghazali. Appreciate you talking to us on the big story there. Let's shift our focus now to the first big discussion on India Global today, which is around Pakistan. Well, there have been a series of blasts that rocked parts of Balochistan last week. In the wake of that, there's now an advisory, a travel advisory that's been issued by the U.S. Embassy, even as there is now greater possibility of more turmoil on the streets of Pakistan. There have been massive protests led by Imran Khan's party, which is now asking he be released. And given the draconian law that's been passed by the Pakistani government, it is able to ensure a greater crackdown on opposition. Where does this lead? What is the dynamics in terms of impact on India, the security implications? Does it mean a more volatile border situation for us? We talk on all that and more with my guests this evening. In the first discussion on India Global, we have Dr. Zakir Hussain, former research fellow of ICWA. Thank you so much for taking out the time. And we also have Imtiaz Gul, who's a senior journalist joining us from Pakistan. Imtiaz, let me start with you because I want to understand the situation right now on ground, as this, what it seems like is extreme volatility, extreme turmoil, possibly greater clashes that could be in store between PTI supporters and the government, even as there are now all signs that no side could actually back down from here.
Well, this is an unfortunate situation that Pakistan currently finds itself in, and the top leader of People's Party, Bilawal Zardari, also alluded to this in his speech to the National Assembly a couple of hours ago, in which he said that if today the government is rejoicing what has happened to the PTI people, then tomorrow it could be us, it could be the ruling party, the Pakistan Muslim League. And that's why we need to create a situation in which all parties basically find a middle ground for taking Pakistan out of the current crisis. And this is something that obviously not the majority of Pakistanis don't like. But the irony of the situation is that even though Bilawal Zardari is talking about this explosive situation, his own party is very much part of the coalition that is currently ruling Pakistan. His own party has grabbed 2 governorships out of the 4, and then a number of ministries, sort of, so to say. So the party is enjoying power, sitting pretty, while lecturing the other senior partner, Pakistan Muslim League, in showing restraint, in showing accommodation. And he also is saying that, look, the job of the government, of the sitting government, is not to inflame the situation, but to douse the fire. But this basically comes across as very ironic that these both are
Yes,
partners in
Mr.
the
Gul, I'm going to
coalition.
come and ask you, give me about a minute. I'm going to come back to you to ask about where does this go from here, because it seems very volatile right now. But Dr. Hussain, talk to us about the security implications of this, because the internal turmoil in Pakistan that has been on ever since those cases were slapped in on Imran Khan, this year's election verdict, which has been which many believe, of course, is a complete mockery of the election process itself. And since then, it's just been downhill in terms of yet another nail in the coffin as far as Pakistan's fragile democracy is concerned.
Yeah, it is very true that since Imran Khan has been imprisoned, and even before that, the situation was deteriorating in Pakistan, but the establishment was not taking care of, especially military, which itself is complicit in this deterioration. And now it has launched a crackdown on terrorism, but terrorism has taken revenge. And in 2024 itself, 325 events has taken place, and in August itself, 59 events has taken place, killing 84 people. Balochistan and Pakhtunkhwa province are very active. That's why United States has issued advisory, level 3
Thanks there.
advisory.
But the
to
reason
the
for that is also because the locals resent the
Yeah.
growing Chinese presence. The
Yes,
fact
yes,
that
yeah,
everything is
yes,
going to the Chinese and the remaining
yeah.
is being siphoned off by the central government. But what
Yeah.
about what's happening on the streets right now of Islamabad? What's happening on thousands and thousands of protesters coming out challenging whatever little legitimacy that Shahbaz Sharif's government has?
No, it does not has any legitimacy. While if we hear the voice of overseas Pakistanis, they are provoking their citizens, Pakistanis, to go on the road and do the in the fashion as Bangladeshis have done. And I think that Pakistan is running on a borrowed time because economically it is collapsed already, politically it is fragile, socially it is disturbed. So it is the right time for Pakistan establishment to restore democracy in the country because army has
Let me ask
lost
this
its
to Imtiaz Gul. Is there a
yeah.
regime change that we should now be bracing for?
Well, I mean, if the current situation continued, the current volatility, it could perhaps lead to a change of government anytime in the coming weeks. But I should also may add a correction that there are not tens of thousands of protesters or demonstrators on the streets of Islamabad. It was a demonstration that took on the periphery or outskirts, or the protest rally by PTI was on the periphery of Islamabad. However, it was manhandled. It was
That's an important
forcefully.
clarification, sir, that you're giving, because that's why it's important to speak to people on ground and
Yeah,
for
that's
you
what
to really tell
I
us
can
what the
state
picture
this
is.
actually.
Because we in New Delhi are
Yeah,
concerned on two parameters. One is volatility
we
has a
too as
direct impact
Pakistanis
on
are
us from a security point of view.
yeah,
And secondly, with a very
yeah, we
fragile economic state that Pakistan is in right now, this political flux could possibly lead to a greater chain of events. So I'm glad you clarified, but I want to then ask you this, that given the uneasy relationship that Imran Khan shares with the military, or we can call it establishment, that's a euphemism in Pakistan, how do you see this going from here on? Do you see the clashes intensifying, or do you think there could be some back channel negotiations?
I think there have been some back-channel negotiations, some contacts between Imran Khan and the military establishment, which he yesterday announced snapping. He said there will be from henceforth no more contacts with the establishment, particularly after this forceful assault on the parliament by the police, and after almost a dozen parliamentarians belonging to PTI were arrested from inside the Parliament House. So that was an unprecedented situation, which also put the government then on the defensive, because in the heat of the moment, probably the Minister of Interior ordered this action inside the Parliament, which is sort of enraging. The majority of Pakistan is really outraged. But now I think there's the Speaker of the National Assembly is trying to mend fence, trying to correct the
Right.
situation. However, this has been a very, very inflammatory action that the police took, and it has added further fuel to the fire.
How should Dr. Hussain, very quickly, I'm completely out of time, sir, 30 seconds. How should India be reading this situation right now?
India should be very careful about this because on his Pakistan acquired situation, this situation may go up because as United States said that there may be a unarmed conflict in there. So we should be very careful that this Pakistan establishment may not channelize this anger on India. So
All
we should
right, we
be
leave
very
it
wise.
there.
Yeah.
Dr. Hussain, Imtiaz Gul, thanks so much for breaking things down as they stand in Pakistan. My sense is I'm going to revisit this story sooner than I may like to. Welcome back. You're watching India Global with me, Gaurie Dwivedi. The second big discussion that we're having today on the show is regarding the latest as far as the Maldives is concerned. Now, India-Maldives relationship has seen its ups and downs ever since Mohamed Muizzu came to power last year. His commentary around India has been strident, and some would even say extremely negative. Of course, that resulted in a direct pro-China slant, but since then a lot has happened. Some would even say that his government is unraveling. There's been allegations, or he has made allegations of a financial coup, where essentially the finances of Maldives have been completely gone haywire. In fact, its foreign exchange reserves have been down to its bare minimum, and in the wake of that, two of its ministers have also resigned. Now, what does this mean? Well, he is headed to India very soon, but does it mean a thaw in relationship? Does it mean that he is now going to come back to a centrist policy that nations like Maldives need to adopt, not sway too much towards China, because it also leads to massive funds and loans that also need to be paid up at some point of time. To discuss the larger India-Maldives relationship, the impact some of these recent developments are likely to have, and what could be the #1 agenda item for Mohamed Muizzu's trip is our big discussion. Okay, Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia will be joining me along with Anas Abdul Sattar. In fact, Mr. Sattar, let me start with you, sir. Former Minister of State for Finance with the government of Maldives. How do you read the developments that have been unfolding in Maldives the last 2 weeks or so, a fortnight? Some would say the finances have absolutely unraveled, and in the wake of that, Mohamed Muizzu is now headed to Delhi.
Yeah, well, we've seen the history of the current president, Dr. Muizzu. He has a record of backtracking on most of his policies, on most of his stances against some countries, some neighboring countries. The most important country would be India. We have seen him using somewhat, I would say, aggressive tone against India right after his visit to China, and that there cannot be any bullying, because even if we are small, I mean the Maldives, but right now the financial status of the country is in a very dire status.
China is not helping when finances are bad, does it? It only provides loans at high interest rates.
Yeah, of course. Now, I think the president has realized how important the India is to the Maldives. It always has been important to the Maldives. It is a matter of a historical fact, and we cannot go beyond it. So I think
what about the voices of discord within his government? Two of his ministers have resigned in the wake of these developments, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they are in a disarray, sort of. We've seen two of those deputy ministers resigning yesterday, I think. And last night, we have seen one of his MPs calling against India that the unexplained deaths that are occurring in our country is a result of the Covishield vaccines provided by the Indian government during the COVID. So I don't think the President Muizzu has a grip on his government officials and some of the parliament members in his party to be in line with his foreign policy. That is as a result of his anti-rhetoric, anti-Semitic rhetoric they have been using during the presidential campaign, as well as the parliamentary campaign.
Mr. Sattar, stay with us. I want to get an Ambassador Bhatia also on this, which is the latest as far as the trip that is lined up for next week, the impact it is set to have on relationship between India and Maldives in the backdrop of a financial scare that Maldives is looking at, where China isn't helping. Ambassador Bhatia.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. I think the discussion so far has been very interesting. I want to contribute by highlighting that the positive change that is happening in Maldives' external relations now is obviously the result of 2 or 3 factors. Fundamentally, as I see it, geography is asserting itself, and history of close relations between India and Maldives is helping in that process. Back in January, when President Muizzu went to China, there was this broad perception that there was a tilt by Maldives towards China. But since then, two major things happened. One, India extended a strategic patience, showed strategic patience towards Maldives. And secondly, very clearly, China has failed to deliver on the assurances and the commitments given to the president. And finally, I think what is important is that now Mr. Muizzu is functioning as the president of Maldives. That means he has realized that having good relations with India and possibly other countries as well is much better than Maldives aligning itself only with one single power, namely China. So I think you are absolutely right in underlining the fact that the forthcoming visit to India of the President of Maldives could be a turning point, and it will build further on a very fruitful discussions that Foreign Minister Jaishankar had in Maldives last month,
Right.
and the very successful defense cooperation meeting last week.
Right. Mr. Sattar, then let me ask you this. In your opinion, what should be that number one demand or expectation that Mohamed Muizzu will have when he comes to visit India?
Well, the financial status should be the main thing. Today, Moody's has downgraded the status of the Maldives again. That comes within weeks after the Fitch ratings have downgraded the Maldives. So the agenda, the first priority of President Muizzu should be gaining assistance, financial assistance from the Indian government. And in addition to that, he should assure the Prime Minister of India and the people of India that there would be no anti-Semitic rhetoric towards the Indian government and its people.
Right.
It's a huge ally to the Maldives.
Absolutely. Ambassador Bhatia, quickly, sir, what would be India's expectation when it extends? I'm sure it will extend a financial lifeline to Maldives at rates that are concessional and beneficial to them and benevolent, to say the least. But what should be New Delhi's expectation?
Yeah, very briefly, I think India will very clearly convey to my mind that Maldives is very important to India. It is an important neighbor. And in that context, there would be an attempt for further intensification of the strategic partnership that binds India and Maldives. And this is not a partnership between the two governments. It is a partnership between two peoples. And
Yes.
therefore, I think if Maldives is receptive, a message can go out from Delhi that more Indians should visit Maldives for tourism purposes, and more Maldives people should come for all kinds of purposes, health,
Absolutely.
training, skill development, etc. Thank you.
Absolutely. That strident commentary from Mohamed Muizzu has impacted the people-to-people exchange and tie-ups between the two countries. Thank you so much, Ambassador Bhatia and Anas Abdul Sattar, for joining me on this edition of India Global. The fact is that India should and probably will extend a line of credit to Maldives at concessional rates because it wants the economy and the country to revive. At the same time, the expectation should be that Mole and Muizzu cannot continue to lean towards China in good times and come back and expect India to help them in their bad times. All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.